Thank you for tuning in to Spiritual Debriefing from First Baptist Church, Hiwassee, a podcast about Christian men living a Christian life in a very unchristian world. With your hosts, Daniel Meadows, Derek Fisher, Randy Bryson, Jed Harris, and me, Ray Taggart.
Welcome to Spiritual Debriefing. I am your host, Brother Daniel Meadows, youth pastor at First Baptist High, Hiwassee Men's Ministry Director. With me, as always, is...
That's me. I'm Randy. About time we get on with that. Jeez. I don't have a title. I'm Randy. Moving on to...
I'm used to Jed being over here, so now it's Derek.
Hi, Derek.
We're changed.
Hey, it's back to like our first one we recorded with the way we went around.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was you, Jed, that got out of place.
Jed.
Jed.
No.
It's always the short ones.
It's easier to slip in.
And we don't see him.
No.
All right. Your turn.
Oh, I'm Jed.
Hi, Jed.
Hi, Randy.
See? It's that spot.
It's the spot.
And then I'm here too, pushing the buttons, trying to get the volume right. We're actually in a different spot than we normally are, so I'll apologize if it sounds a little different. And if you like the podcast, don't forget to like it, subscribe to it, share it with your friends and family, post it up places. It's on all the major podcast sites, so whatever they listen to, they should be able to find us. Just look for Spiritual Debriefing. And if you can't find us, shoot us a message, and we'll figure out how to help you. Say my name.
Yeah, you said Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Oh, hey, Ray.
That was awesome, Ray.
Yeah.
Can you do it again?
Yeah.
RT.
So, the one pushing buttons, that's Ray.
Did I say my name?
Did I say my name?
He is pushing buttons, all right.
He is pushing a lot of buttons. No, tonight, one of the things we've been talking about off and on for a little bit is leadership. And so I just kind of want us to go into different aspects of leadership. What is leadership? What does Christian leadership look like? All the stuff. So what
And the world right now lacks leadership.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like big time.
Yeah.
As far as what, Derek?
Well, we have more bosses than we do leaders. That's how I feel. Bosses. I have a little thing. Let me pull this up. I think I sent it to
You
a
sent
couple
it to
of
me.
you. And it's so true, though. Because I remember working for good leaders. And you can remember them. On the bosses, they demand. They rely on authority. They always say I. They use people. They take credit for everything. They place the blame all the time on others. So that's bosses. Where I worked for a lot of bosses. I've had a lot of different jobs. But I remember the leaders, and even like in the police department too. Here we go again. The law enforcement. But I remember this one sergeant I worked for, and I always followed him. And a lot of us always followed him every year on the shift bid because he was a good leader, because he worked with us. We didn't work for him. He worked with us. He was always on calls with us. If we were command of a call, he'd let us be the command of the call. He was trying to teach us. And I always think, like a good leader, I'm going to teach you to replace me. Because one day, we're all going to get replaced. So, that's why I followed him all the time. It was awesome, just working with him, just being on different calls, and then really just teaching, just leading with us down there. It was always boots on the ground. He came from a military background, and that's what his philosophy was wear the boots on the ground. So, yeah, that's what I think the bosses are that are out there, those things that I mentioned. What do you think, Randy?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is, I know I speak of my boss all the time, but I think I've got a pretty awesome boss. When I first started, he always told me, I won't tell you to do anything that I won't do with you. So that always hit a nerve with me right there, saying, I think he would do about everything I would. He hasn't set me on a path yet that he hasn't already been there or will help me with. So I really think that really stuck with me with this, because as we studied this here as well, I was looking through here and going, man, I don't think I've ever had a good boss that was down in the trenches with me or get dirty with me or, basically help me, because the way I see it, a good boss has been there, done that, and will help you succeed through that, not just tell you what to do. Some bosses will let you learn from that, but most of the time, a good boss will be there with you.
Yeah, and then they teach you.
Yeah, they teach you.
Because how am I going to know something I don't know?
Yeah.
That's where that comes into play too. Are you going to teach me how to do this, or are you just going to tell me?
Yeah.
So.
And I like the challenge of somebody telling you how to do it, but in the same sense, if you need help and you ask for it,
right. Yeah,
they're
that's
there for you.
Yep.
And I like that. And I
Yeah.
think pretty well I'm pretty content right now at my job where my boss will do that. If I say I don't know how to do something, either he'll show me or he'll find somebody to show me.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's real important to be able to do what you are leading in anything. The part of the company that I manage where I work, I was hiring someone to be a mid-level manager. And when I was doing the hiring process, I told every single person I interviewed, I said, for the first thing you're going to do is actually work at the base level for at least 2 or 3 months. I'm not going to jump you straight into training management. I'm going to have you do what I'm asking my people to do that I want you to manage over. Because if you don't fully understand their job, how can you actually manage them properly? I mean,
Exactly.
they got to know how it actually works. Otherwise, you will just completely have expectations that don't match what's capable, or not understand the difficulty of what you're asking for if you just don't understand what the people are actually doing.
Right, and then that brings up a good one too, is that a really important characteristic of a leader is being humble. I think that's really important as a leader.
How do you do that and lead at the same time?
That's a good one.
I think a lot of your humbleness will come from, like what Ray said, starting at the bottom and working your way up. Everything that I've ever done, I've done every job in the auction business there is, from the office to clerking to setting up to clean up to picking up trash, the whole 9 yards. Done it all. So I know how it's supposed to be done, and I know what I'd expect out of someone else. So, because I've been there and done it.
And I think that's what
You're
keeps you humble. You're humble.
because you know you've lived it.
You worked from the very bottom in every job that I've had. I've worked from the bottom.
Right. But to keep yourself humble, though, C.S. Lewis said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so to be a good leader in humility, it's not look what I've done,
Right.
but it's look what you're doing and becoming. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot more. Look what we have done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's no longer an I, it's a we
It's
thing.
a we.
Yeah.
I got other stuff I'm looking at.
That's what I
I
was
got
trying
my
to,
notes here.
I had a quote, but I couldn't find it. So
I'll give you a quote if you're looking for one. Here
I
you
always
go.
love your quotes.
A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful in life spending doing nothing.
Explain that.
Well, I think in all our lives, we're afraid to make mistakes, but we don't realize mistakes are what makes progress, because either we grow from our mistakes and move on, or we do nothing and never learn anything.
I like that. I think a good leader learns from their past.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's what I try to explain to the students all the time. when they talk about like their parents and the rules, I'm like, they have these rules because they have a past where they made a mistake and they're trying to teach you and lead you to not do that. But yeah.
I was reading something on Warren Buffett. And
It's 5:00 somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. And he had an article out there, and it was good. He goes, as leaders, your customers, your employees, your communities, and your family members depend on you to keep the world spinning on its axis. In your local context, think about what area your mental, physical, and even spiritual health you're neglecting right now. So he's talking about you as being a leader. What are you neglecting? Your plan of action doesn't have to be time consuming or too demanding, but just be mindful and improving on area of your well-being, right? And he even brought up, which is an area that, we have to, is mental health. We got to make sure that, we're kind of sharp, right? We keep on top of mental health. But, I read those self-improvement books and, the Zig Ziglars and, and the motivational. I'm always on top of that. And I like that as my self-help, as my motivation. And what surprised me was that he even put on there is your spiritual health.
Yeah.
And we see that in leaders, and I think I said this earlier tonight, but when we were discussing, is that good leaders submit to a higher power. And our higher power is God. And that's who we submit ourselves to. And Jesus, when he walked this earth, gave us a good example on how to be a leader. Because he did show humbleness, right? And just by him walking the earth is showing us how to be good leaders. And I'm trying to get it out right, but it's not coming out right. But, and he even prayed to his Father all the time, and that's his keeping his spiritual health. And we need to do that as well. And we need to cry out to God sometimes and to keep our spiritual health in check. And, you can go through all those different ones and physical, if you work out a lot, you think faster, you're smarter, you're on top of things. That, Daniel, you're a runner.
Oh, yeah.
Right? When the days you don't run because
everything's off. My attitude,
everything. Your brain's fogged.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we got to keep in check as leaders, and we got to keep working at those things. That's never done.
Right.
You're never done with it. Go, I mastered to be a leader, so now I'm done.
The day I master being a leader is the day that God calls me home.
Right.
Because then my work's done here on earth.
Yeah. And I do the same thing. I'm always listening to, different things that helps me, my mental health, and different podcasts and different, I like the Zig Ziglar, I like the Eric Thomas, it just motivates me. It gets me thinking, gets me going, hey, I push for more.
Yeah.
I want to be better.
Yep.
I never settle for mediocre, which is that, that, Randy. Mm-hmm. We always shoot
For better.
And we do the same thing to our kids.
There's always room for growth.
Always.
Yeah.
Yep. There's always. And then I think we're that separates that from the bosses to the leaders is that bosses think that they got to a spot in their job and they're done. Okay, I'm done. I'm the boss now. You got to listen to me. But you haven't improved yourself anymore. You got to the boss spot. You went through the drive, and I love the drive. You set your goals and you set your things, and I love the drive. But when I get there, then I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
Okay, I hit this part. What's next? I hit the 1 mile on a treadmill. Okay, cool. What's next?
Leadership's not a title.
It's not.
And that's where we're at today is a lot of people think, oh, well, I got that title, so that makes me the leader. And
Right. You're a boss.
no.
And,
Right.
And that's why you guys know that I hate titles. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like titles.
Well, in a lot of places, you'll even find that if there is just a boss, one of the employees will actually be the leader, right? There'll be someone who's a member
Yeah.
under that boss who's actually the
Yeah.
one that everyone looks up to know what to do, how to do it. They don't go to the boss to how do we fix this problem.
Right.
They go to
They'll
their
go to that
leader.
leader.
Yeah.
And and that was, just going back to what you're saying about how Jesus showed us the right way. I mean, we're studying MacArthur's disciple stuff, and one of the things he brought up was that 3 characteristics Jesus demonstrated of a leader is initiative, just getting out there and getting things started and getting things done, as opposed to saying, this needs to be done, somebody sort it out. I mean, he often just stepped in and did stuff before even telling anybody it was happening. He just did it. And then involvement, right? He's the one actually doing it. As you were saying, leading from the front, being in the middle of everything while you're doing it. And the last one was inquisitiveness, which is something that was new to me. The other two kind of were like, yeah. But if you look at it, Jesus was always responding with questions to people.
Right.
If they had a question to him, he usually threw a question back at them. And one of the key things, I mean, even my boss at my company, he's always asking me questions, lots of questions. And it's why I think he's such a good leader of our company, because he wants to understand, not just say, this is how it is, get her done. He's always asking a lot of questions. So those are 3 things that just triggered off of what you said. And then one last thing, today I heard a quote about how it was this guy who wrote a book called 1% Better, and I don't remember the name of the author. I wish I could right now. But he said, you don't rise to your goals, you fail to your process.
Right.
And I was like, that is so true. You can't just set a goal. That's what bosses do. They'll set a goal. They'll do nothing else. A true leader will figure out the process on how to get to that goal.
Yep.
Well, a leader will strive for progress, not for perfection, because we'll never reach perfection on this side of heaven.
Right.
But we'll always have progress going towards it. Right. And that's like with my running. I'm not the best runner, but there's progress in my running to get me to where I want to be.
Right.
And I think that's the same in leadership, is that I'll never be the best leader, because I can always think of someone better than me, right, to be a leader. But there's progress that I'm taking and steps that I'm taking to get to being the best.
But that should strive you to be better.
Right.
Somebody better than you, that should be striving you to be
That's
better.
right.
Yep.
And
Yes.
good leaders will put themselves around people who are better than them too.
Right.
You're not going to surround yourself with low people to make yourself look better. You're going to say, okay, these people are doing what I want to do. They know something. Let's go. Let's go.
That's what
be
you're going to
there.
do. You're going to surround yourself with people that are better. That makes you better.
Yeah.
We hear that too, Randy, all the time, and that, Eric Thomas, motivational stuff is, I'm not going to hang out with what they say, like the naysayers, the negative people. If I hang out with negative people all the time, you're going to make me negative, and I don't want that. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
And so that's where that steps up, is being a leader and say, you're always negative. I can't be with you.
Yeah.
You hit that level, then you want to hit the next level. You just want to keep going.
Right.
Yep.
That's the same with us not hanging out too much with people in the world, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be bringing us away from the godly leadership we're trying to be, because they're fully compromising all the time.
Yep.
And, you can easily slip in with that if you're hanging out with them too much.
Ray, you're going to take my job and throwing quotes out there. That was good. I wanted to add one before we moved on, but, I'm going to do it anyway. This one reminds me of Derek real well, too, because we've had this conversation many a times on different situations here. The way to get started is to quit talking about it and just begin doing it.
Yeah.
You like that, buddy? I found that just for you. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I loved it as soon as I read it. I was like, yep, that's going on this week's podcast.
So let me ask you this, because this is one thing that I've been pondering about a little bit, is, we talk about sometimes being a good leader is just going out there doing it. Sometimes a good leader, though, has to step back, right? Sometimes you got to step back and see the big picture to see what you need to put in place before you go do it.
And I think it also allows you to allow the people you're leading to step into their roles.
Because I think you told me one time, Derek, we were sitting there talking one day up here at the church, and you were like, sometimes a leader doesn't necessarily always go do it themselves. Sometimes they guide other people to go
Right.
to do it.
Yeah, and that's what you do, and it's not micromanaging them either.
Right.
It's letting them shine, and that's what a leader
Right.
does is let the people that you hang out with, the people that you go and tell to do a job, you let them shine. They take the credit.
Yeah, sometimes
right?
you step
That's what
back.
and that's what we do, right? I mean, we always say. I mean, you hear that from me all the time.
Yeah.
Jed, I always say we, and I never
We.
noticed that I always say we. But now, you do looking at leadership and looking those certain ways, you're like, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not doing this on my own. Just
No,
like
it's
this
we.
podcast.
It's
It's a we thing, We couldn't do this by ourselves.
And I told you that earlier today I had a little piece of a quote, but it's basically a statement that I wanted to tell you, and I just couldn't read it while I was driving while ago when we talked. But this goes along with what you both just said. And I'm going to use the word spiritual, but I think we could probably put anything in with spiritual on this. Don't take spiritual out of it, but with it in our lives or whatever. Effective spiritual leadership creates a shared vision among organizational members, giving them a sense of purpose and importance. Such a vision helps produce a culture of genuine compassion and care for other organizational members and selfless attitudes. I think that goes along with what we're trying to talk about here.
Right. No, it's like when Jesus sent out the 70 disciples to preach. He'd showed them how to do it. He didn't warn them. He didn't say, hey, in a month, better be ready. It was just all of a sudden one day. He said, okay, this is what you're going to do. Don't bring anything extra. Don't bring any money. Just go out and do your thing. I'm going to tell you what you need. You've seen what I do. Go do what I do. And he sent them out and sat back. And I mean, I'm sure he didn't stop preaching. I'm sure he was running around preaching while they were doing their thing too. But still, he recognized the time when sink or swim time came. It was they were ready or they weren't, and he knew they were. But he sent them out.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, you need to get out of my head because that was going to be my next point. So Jesus' leadership emphasizes the importance of being discerning with regards to others without seeking control of them. He cares about their freedoms of his followers to choose, even if he is in those moments that matter so much, had to choose voluntarily to go through Gethsemane and to hang out on the cross on Calvary.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. On my way here, I was talking to my sister, and she was just telling me how she enjoys a podcast, and we got done listening to our last one, and I asked her, I said, well, how are things going? How is what does your husband think of the podcast? And, she went on to talking about leadership, and it was just funny because I didn't even tell her that's what we were talking about tonight. And like her husband's struggling at work. He's a relatively new believer.
Right.
He's in the military. And he has like a Bible and devotional book on his desk, and he's working for this guy right now. It's considers a boss, not a leader, and he's struggling with trying to be a godly leader now. And you might know this, Ray. I mean, kind of being a new believer and kind of always getting shut down. Looking at differently and being criticized a lot. And that's what's going on with him right now. And he's struggling because he's at a different position that he's kind of the old school army. If we had problems, we're going to go deal with it in the parking lot. Where now they can't do that no more. And with this boss is really just that micromanager, always trying to get him to look bad. And that's why I told my sister, I'm like, well, he's working for a boss. He's not working for a leader. And I says, well, hopefully this podcast helps him to be a godly leader in a worldly work environment. And it's very hard to do. It is very hard.
So let's go off of that then.
Yeah.
What characteristics does it take to be a godly leader in the church, in the home, around non-Christians?
Yeah, I think we touched on a couple of them.
Yeah,
the first one's going to be...
we did a little bit. First one's going to be humble,
You
humility.
You
I
got to
think
stay humble.
I think the first one is we have to seek His will.
Right.
Is number one in anything we do. Because if we seek His will for our personal self, it will overflow into everything else in our life.
And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
submitting to God.
Submitting to
that's-
God.
Yeah.
Yep,
I
submitting
mean,
to
that
God.
has to be the number one for.
Yeah. Almost every time I'm going to have a team meeting or I'm going to have a one-on-one meeting with somebody to talk about something that they didn't do like the way they're supposed to, or even give them praise and feedback, like a year review, any of that type of stuff. Now, I've definitely found that I'm just drawn to pray beforehand, to be like, listen, I got some things I need to get through to them about what they need to adjust and do better on, but I don't want to come off as just coming down on them saying, hey, you messed up. I want to come to them and I want them to want to do better. And I try to again show them that they can do better, either by example or comparing to someone else. But praying to God about it, I think it's definitely helped a lot. So that's another, as you said, bringing the Lord into it, to pray in those situations, to again, even if he is listening and he's dealing with that, taking a moment to just pray, okay, Lord, come in, step in here real quick and help me. What do I say? How do I act? What do I do? It will come to you if you're
Nothing
with the
too
Lord.
big, nothing too small.
Yep.
Just go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else though? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
just
how long
that's
do you
number
want?
one.
Right, because like that's number one, and we know that's like for us as Christians, we understand that's the first thing we got to do.
That's true.
Right.
But we
gotta
might
seek
have somebody
God's
out there
will,
that
right.
didn't know that.
Right,
But we still struggle with that.
we
Oh,
do.
And we
yeah.
do.
Oh, we absolutely do.
Yes, we know that. We know
You
that.
know.
We know that we need to be,
Right.
but man,
We
sometimes
still struggle with it.
man.
Oh, absolutely. So
Because
we got to
you know
see
why we struggle?
why.
Because of our egos sometimes getting away.
Yeah, because of our pride, right? Because we're not staying humble.
Right.
Yep.
Obedient.
Ha
Oh, here he comes.
Come on with it. Let's go, Randy.
I made a list of this.
Randy's fixing
And
preach
this is
to
not
us.
and this is not in any order right now. I didn't sit and I made a list, but love, be humble, be obedient, have good integrity, and be honest.
I'd add compassion to that. I think you got to have compassion for the people you work with and understand that everyone's going to make mistakes and that you have to. I've actually told everybody in multiple jobs where I've managed people, said I have yet to fire someone over making a mistake. I will fire somebody in a heartbeat over hiding a mistake, because I know we all make them. If you make a mistake and you come to me and said, hey, this happened, let's fix it. But if you try to cover it up, that's when I'm going to fire you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. This in my head right now, and you all know this too, because I hate this saying, because this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we're going to do it. I hate that saying.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that comes from leaders. I think that comes from bosses.
Yeah.
Because this is the way we've done it for so long, and this is the way we just do it because that's why we do it.
Well, I was just going to say, add to Randy's list, continuous learning.
Yeah.
You have
You
to
have to.
continuously
It's continuous learning.
You have to.
And that's where, your spiritual health, your mental health,
Yeah.
your physical health, that's what you're continually working on yourself daily.
It's like my
Daily.
complete dislike of the word professional.
Professional.
Because
Oh.
professional means
You've mastered it.
mastered it.
Yeah.
I do not believe in that word.
Right. You tell me that all the time.
I think the list can go on, but I think a real good one too is we don't think about a leader. Well, I mean, we probably do, but we don't be a servant. I mean, you can't always lead
Right.
because you don't always have the answer. Somebody on your team can help you, and it's always a team, not just you.
But a good leader knows when to follow.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
What
So being a
did
servant-
Paul say in Galatians? Jesus didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean that's it right there. You have to be willing to humble yourself to serve someone else.
Yep.
And for us, like to us when we think of serve, we're like, okay, we'll open the door for them. We served them, right? Or we'll refill their drink. We served them. But if you put your mind back in the context that Paul was writing in Galatians, they understood service as different because back then, the more servants you had, the better you were in society.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so Paul and Jesus was essentially saying you have to put yourself as the lowest in society and serve someone. And that's where leadership comes from.
Yeah. And you're not born a leader. I don't believe that you're born a leader.
So you don't think you have natural born leadership?
I don't think so. I think you have to work on it. And I think you're taught and trained because, if you're just born a leader, there's a lot of training that comes with leadership. And like we said, you're working on all these different aspects daily to become a better leader.
But do you think you may have some of the characteristics of a
I-
leadership
yeah.
at
Yeah,
birth, and
yeah,
then it's just
yeah.
growth into you?
Because I don't think anybody can be a leader.
No.
I think I
Right.
think you're right that yes, you're not a born leader as in not having any training
Right.
or anything
Right.
and you're able
Right.
to lead.
Right.
But people with the right characteristics, people with the right heart and mind can become a true leader, not a boss, but a true leader if they have good leaders to follow.
I was about to say, and that comes from someone teaching you how.
Well, and the biggest key of being a good leader is have discipline.
Yeah.
And you're not just, I don't think you're born with discipline because you're taught discipline.
Right.
And you're taught to that self-discipline. And that's what we got to stay on top of is our own self-discipline on improving ourselves on all
Right.
those little different aspects in our lives.
Right?
And so that is going to God. That is reading his word, being disciplined to do that. That is going to the gym, working on my physical health. That's discipline. Waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I've been slacking on that, but, and that's why I told Randy, when we started working out, and I even told Randy that, I says, if I tell you to go to the gym, my butt better be at the gym.
Yeah.
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 That's
if
accountability.
if I'm going to preach to you to do that, I better be there.
Yep.
That's right, buddy.
Right. And so that's that discipline that you gotta keep to.
And hold accountability.
You okay over there?
I think so.
He dropped his notes.
Well, I was about to say something here, and I think I got my notes mixed up, so I ain't going to say it because they'll be talking out of turn.
Well, if you want to talk, you can.
It's your turn.
Well, I've got a scripture here, and what I got underneath it is not what the scripture was, so
Oh.
I'm going to at least play smart once.
Well, again, that's another good quality of a leader too, is knowing when to shut your mouth.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm still working on that.
Me too.
Not to just say something just because it's there to say something.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
That was Peter.
Yeah.
Peter learned that
Yep.
big time.
Yep. Well,
And
there's
I'm
a
learning
reason
that all
Jesus
the time.
picked him.
Yeah.
There's a reason Jesus picked him to be the leader of the apostles, though, because he
Yeah.
had the qualities to be the leader. So he was, there was a reason. And actually, this again, we're going to talk about this in our Sunday study a little bit. But Jesus, from the beginning, also was teaching him how to be a leader and showing him. And this is something I hadn't picked up before. But he named Simon Peter to call him the Rock. But in the Bible, he used both names still. And he'd always use Simon if he was rebuking him or he had done something rash or out of turn or didn't understand. And then he would use Peter whenever he did something right to remind him, hey, you are now being the rock I want you to be.
Yeah.
And then other times being now you're old Simon again.
Do you think we should have two names?
I don't
I
know.
think sometimes we do.
I've already had a few different ones bantered back and forth. So,
Right.
I mean,
If my mom's calling me, it's three names.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to pose a question.
Pose it.
Posing. I think God gave us some great leadership in the Bible, and I guess my question is can you guys name a few? I've got a list of them and kind of a little thing what they.
I think they just did.
We did a couple more.
But
couple.
you didn't do the ones on my list, so I want to kind of read what I found out here because I like the little sayings they have at the end. So, fine, I'll go for one.
Go.
Tell us.
Okay, the first one on my list is Noah. Leads to do what's right even if they are all alone.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Anybody else, or you want me to just read my list?
No, but that was good.
Yeah.
That was a good
No,
one.
because I didn't really think of that.
I didn't either.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, and that was listening to God.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and Moses was a good leader, of course, and he did some of the things that also I think is important for a leader to do, is to understand you can't do everything, and you need to identify people to take up and what they can do and what they can't, and delegate. That is very important. And Moses didn't even figure that out right for himself. He had to be told that by his father-in-law. Get some help. Yes, you were a leader, but a leader of, again, I don't remember the exact number of Israelites at that time, but it was a lot. I mean, we're talking over 100,000 or something like that at that point. So, I mean, you needed help. And so a good leader's got to know when they can't do everything. You have to be able to trust the people underneath you and know who to trust. But so Moses is a good one.
So
Like we talked about a while ago.
So under Moses, what I have over here is leaders stick up for their people.
They do.
He did
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
Yeah,
repeatedly.
he did that. Yeah.
Yep.
What else you got?
They're apologetic.
You name one, Derek. Come on. Don't say Aaron right now. I'm
I
just
did.
joking.
I said the best one there was in the Bible. Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. You're right. All right, Jed. Come on, your turn.
Read your list.
All right.
You got Joshua on there, right? I bet, right?
Yes, I
What do you
do.
got
Yeah.
under Joshua?
Leaders rule by example rather than by command.
Right? Right? I mean, again, I don't remember the verse, but Daniel probably might. But, when he went and fought those, 200 guys by himself with just his shield bearer or whatever it was? That was
Yeah.
Joshua, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Climbed on up there, and the only one with him was his shield bearer and God. Went after, killed 200 guys. I mean,
I'm gonna assume you got David.
David, yes.
Talk to me.
Leaders are not afraid of giants.
I love that. I love
Right.
that. I love that story though, with Goliath. If you really look at that story, because there's a part in that story that we miss sometimes, and I think it ties into leadership. Because if you look, when David is talking to King Solomon about going to fight Goliath, and King Solomon's like, well, what, essentially what experience do you have? And David's like, well, I killed lions and bears. That's a past experience that God was using to prepare him for the big battle that was coming up. And in leadership, our failed experiences, our past experiences are to prepare us for what God's about to open up for us.
Right.
So I have two more. Let's see if you guys can name one of the two or both. Okay, time's
All right,
up.
hang on, wait,
time.
no, wait.
Bing.
Yeah.
Old Testament, New Testament,
Let's see. Let me look. Old.
male or female?
Let me just read them.
Ruth.
No, they're males. Okay, Isaiah.
Wow.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leaders rise to the occasion.
They sure do.
Okay.
Joseph. Leaders endure the spite of circumstances.
He was one who definitely became a leader, had
Yeah.
zero leader from the beginning,
Right.
Yeah.
and worked his way all the way up from the worst possible situation. I mean, you really think about that. He went from slave to prison to second in command of Egypt
Yeah.
because he had good leadership skills.
Well, and
he demonstrated in his
Daniel-
whole life.
Daniel.
What, Daniel?
Not me. Not me. I'm working on it, trying to become like Daniel from the Bible. He had good leadership.
Yeah, yeah,
But that continues, and we have to work on
Right.
it all
Right.
the time.
yeah.
And with and I think too, some of these that we've mentioned, they didn't have somebody that they learned from. Right? Daniel, who did Daniel learn from?
I mean, just the
God.
God.
Yeah.
God. I mean, honestly, that was it. God.
Yeah.
Who else better to learn from, though?
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because he knows you better than anybody else.
Right. But I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but
And I'm sure the list goes on and on.
Oh,
But those-
absolutely.
I found that, and I was like, man, that'd be good kind of just overview.
Yeah. I think one, too, that's not he didn't mention on there, and is, just some parts of it, but Nebuchadnezzar, even though he wasn't a godly leader, he changed his mind numerous times
Yeah.
to God, right? I mean, there was times where he was that's something that a leader has to be able to do, is take in, this is the way what he believed, this is the law he set down, and then things happened. God showed him something different, and he changed because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, not all leaders have to go crazy and live in the wilderness for 7 years and eat bugs or whatever he did, but still, being able to be flexible, I think, is really important, especially for a godly leader, because I think you'll quickly find yourself. It's so difficult to keep yourself out of it.
You have to be fluid,
Yeah.
not flexible.
Yeah,
Flexible,
that's-
you can only bend. And you bend so much till you break.
That's a good way to put it.
Fluid, if you look at a
I can't do
fluid, fluid shapes to whatever container they're put in.
Right.
Yep.
And so a good leader is fluid.
Sure. Yeah, because if you're moving one way, and even if you think it's the right way, but then God tells you something different, you got to be able to shift. You got to be able to change the direction you're going.
And that goes back to always room for improvement.
Yeah.
There's always room. Always.
You pick up a water bottle, is it always ever full? Even a new one?
Mm.
There's always space in it
Mm-hmm.
for more.
Right.
Just a reminder to drink some water.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to read something if you guys ain't going to talk about anything.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to. Anyway, I'm not going to mention the name of who said this, but I'm just going to read what he said. It says, God calls leaders for the purpose of guiding the church according to his will. The great preacher and teacher of this Baptist church said, I gave the people leadership as I believe I got it from God, and they gave me fellowship. I used to say about my church people, I have to be careful what I asked of them, because if I ask them to jump in the river, I'll hear water splash. If I ask them to walk in the fire, I'll start smelling burning clothes. And I think that made a great leader if people are willing to do what you ask and not have to question you, because they believe in what your cause is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I wonder if the apostles knew, because I mean Jesus warned them numerous times. He told them that follow me and you'll die. It'll be the end of you.
Right.
And they still followed because they believed in him as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
100%. They were all willing and knew, especially right after the crucifixion. I'm sure they all figured their days were numbered on a short list. And it was, I think, only by the grace of God that they got as much time as they did to do what they did. But
And they submitted to the higher power.
yep.
All right, fine. Here's another one. And again, they use spiritual on this one here, but I think you can use it in whatever you decide, life, whatever. But being a spiritual leader means to protect and build up.
Yeah. Yep. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier about you want to edify.
You motivate me, Derek.
I appreciate that.
You build me up. I don't know about the protecting yet, but you built me up.
I protect you from, I protect you.
Protect him from too many donuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
One will
From
not eat, one
diabetes,
without
from
the
the
other.
heart failure. I protect them.
Yeah. The statement goes on, and it basically, within a spiritual leader, and this statement goes on with your wife and family as well. So, I mean, it means respecting and loving your wife, helping her to be the best that she can be. But again, that's just whoever you're mentoring or
I was just about to ask, how can you be a good leader to your spouse? Because we've talked about leadership and being good leaders. So let's bring it more.
This goes on
personal.
to be a good listener and always trying to do right, but even be curious about what she's trying to communicate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our hardest part as men.
To listen.
Yeah, to listen.
Because we're fixers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sit down and just listen to me. No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
No,
Tell me what the problem
Just
is.
tell me what the problem is. What is it? But to really sit there and listen,
Yep.
and you know what that shows is that love and that kindness and that compassion.
Yeah.
That's what that shows, is when we can sit there and listen to our wives talk about whatever they're dealing with. And And I think that's hard sometimes. I know, especially for me, and I think it's gotten better through the years because I feel that the love has gotten deeper, and you're more connected. And now I do really, really care, of her well-being, and I want to fix a problem, but I have to sit there and listen, and that goes in the household as well, just with your wives and with your kids. Because what I struggle with the most was with my kids is that I could see their potential. And, and I try to motivate them and try to drive them and try to do all these things, but sometimes it is just to listen to them, I know, for raising a teenage daughter right now is not the most funnest.
I second that.
Yeah.
I'll put a third to it.
Yeah. It's not.
And that's where you got to be as much like Jesus as you possibly can. Cause,
Right.
I think that's the part that some people miss, or people especially who aren't Christians, when they see and they're, what the Bible says that, the wife is subservient to the husband. That's not all it says. That's not exactly what it says. It actually tells us that as a husband, we need to love our wives and family the same way that Jesus loved all of us, which means willing to sacrifice our lives for them, to be the ultimate servant for them. When they say they need anything done, when they ask for help, we're supposed to do it.
Not to be selfish.
Yeah, we're supposed to put all of their needs first.
Right.
Above our own.
Ours.
Which is what is a complete opposite of what the world thinks of a Christian man is actually supposed to be. And I also, again, I don't believe there's enough teaching on that for Christian men out there to say that that is truly your role in the home. Yes, you're the head of the household, but at the same time, you have to be the servant of the household too.
So I was going to run down this list, and then you basically in my head again. No, I'm just.
Yeah, you dropped your notes. I could read them from way back here.
Well, I'll just read down this and let's talk about them, because this one here we'll stick with. Just this was the category for just wives, and then it goes into children. The high points I took from this was it says stand tall in the front / be the example. And then onward it says work in partnership with your wife, act like a servant, live with humility, think morally, never stop learning and growing, have courage, and have an open heart and mind. That was a list under wives for that point. Anything to add there before I go to the kids?
I mean, that pretty much.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
You gotta within the marriage, as the man, the leader of the family, and I put that in air quotes because we know how today's society is. A lot of times the men aren't there to lead.
No, they give up too soon.
They give up too soon.
They don't fight.
Right. But as the leader of the family, you're not thinking of yourself better than your spouse.
Right.
Right. Because your spouse was created to help you. Because let's be honest, if it was just me by myself, I would fail.
I would too. I agree to that.
Like
Me too.
Taylor has made me better.
Yeah.
And made me more organized in things, because that's not a strong suit of mine. I fell in that, and that's needed for leadership, is to be organized. And sometimes you have to have
That partnership.
partner
That's-
to come in
And to be
do that.
pushed.
Yes, yeah.
She pushes me all the time.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Not physically, but
No, Taylor does.
She pushes me all the time. She knows when I'm in the woe was me attitude,
Yeah.
or like, oh, this ain't fair, or this, and she'd be like, get off your butt,
Yeah.
move.
She makes me want to. She'll look at me and she'll be like, "Did you go run today?"
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't. Well, then you better go now. Yes, ma'am.
This ain't done yet.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I
So-
get the hint.
So I left this one out just to see if you guys would say this to me. but you didn't. You failed. Anyways,
You sound like my wife.
Super secret test.
Oh my goodness.
so this goes hand in hand with kids and your wife. So this is why I left it out, because I didn't know. I wanted to see if y'all'd say it. Pray with and for your kids and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So that starts the kids right there. Let your family see you read the Bible often.
That goes with both.
Yeah. And then this one here, I tried to do this. I think I even talked to Derek about this one. Take your wife away as often as possible. Sometimes they work a little too much.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Let them clear their own minds.
Was that an airplane?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a jet flying over. It's kind of cool.
That is cool.
And then read to your family. I'm assuming that's probably the Bible too. So make decisions based on biblical reasoning and not your own.
Mm-hmm.
That's in my list there.
Well, and I don't know if I said this on the previous podcast, but I know I told it to you guys. One of the stats that they've shown recently is that, if children get involved in church, it's a very low percentage that the rest of the family does. There are instances where you'll see there's just a single young adult or something like that who's come to the Lord, and their parents aren't there, their siblings aren't there, nobody's there. If a wife comes to the church, often the kids come with, reluctantly usually, but they do, but it's only a percentage of the time. They're still often alone because a lot of times they won't come. I again don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it's above 50%, but not much over 60% of the time where the family comes to the Lord. But if the man is involved in church and comes to the Lord, it's 90% the rest of the family follows with, and that shows how important being a true good leader of your family and being a godly leader is to your family. If you didn't come to church, if you don't read the Bible, they're not going to come to church.
Right.
They're not going to read the Bible. If you don't pray before meals, they're not going to pray before meals. If you don't pray before difficult things or anything like that, they're not going to pray before difficult things. And I think also one of the examples I really try to set for my daughter is praying in front of people who aren't Christians, and not feeling negativity about it, because she's never had anyone tell her she can't, but there's something that's just innately built into her where she is embarrassed to pray in front of people she doesn't know or people who aren't Christians. And I've actually seen her pray really quietly in front of other kids who are around her age, but she knows aren't Christians. And it's like I've never heard anyone make fun of her. Maybe they have, and I just didn't see it. But something has stopped her from doing it. So I think, again, setting that really good example that it's okay.
Yep.
I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm going to pray. And so totally agree with what you said there.
Mm-hmm.
And back, did you have something to add? Okay. Just back to the wives. I had this statement written under all this here. And I'll be guilty of this. I had a conversation with Derek about my earlier in life in law enforcement here, and this statement hit home real fast for me. It says, your unconditional acceptance of your wife is not based upon her performance, but on her worth as God's gift to you. And that one hit pretty hard with me because I always treated her as something and not a gift.
Right.
And
that's
a good statement.
Yeah, and that's what I did too for a long time. And now that, we're more involved in church, more involved, studying the Word. And it is a true gift from God. And the world doesn't teach you that. Mm-mm. The world right now, I think, is what divorce rate's so high right now. And you imagine if we set that example in a marriage that that your wife is a true gift from God. You know how many minds would change and just be like, well, you're just a woman. Mm-hmm. I'll find another one.
Well, but what's sad right now is that in the church the divorce rate's 50%.
Yep.
And I think if we as husbands were better leaders, that would probably change drastically and lower. That'd
be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard some convincing arguments that it's a big part of it is the shift in the whole, the dating, if you will, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard this too, right? The Bible doesn't mention dating anywhere. You find someone you like and you woo them, or you see if that's what's going to work, and you don't move anywhere beyond just a, hey, are we compatible to most of the things line up? Then we get married. Because the way that somebody described it was, when you're dating somebody in the current worldly sense, right? They're living together a lot of times. They're, being with each other out of wedlock and all that. But what they're saying to each other is, you're the best I can find right now.
Yep.
I'm not going to marry you because I'm holding out. I think I could find better.
Yeah.
That's literally what you are saying to someone when you are just going to date them, live with them,
That's what I
sleep
don't
with them.
like about dating, right? Especially in like high school and junior high. That's what I tell the students all the time. Is a lot of times if you watch them, they date, which really means they talk to each other in the hallway between classes because they're not going anywhere else. And then when they get tired of each other, they break up, right? In air quotes again. And then they just move on. And to me, that's setting them up for failure in the future, right? Because, and partially because I've seen that happen within my own family. Right, my brother and sister both dated. People got married to them. Oh, we don't like you anymore. We divorce. Date somebody else, and they just keep bouncing. And so I don't know.
Yeah. I used to tell my wife, when we got married, I said, I loved you once. If it changes, I'll tell you. I don't need to tell you I love you every day.
Right. But, and another thing, though, we went off onto marriage and dating in leadership, but whatever. Another thing, though, is like whenever I talk about relationships with the students, and I'd say the same thing to Taylor, and I tell her, I didn't fall in love with you. I grew in love with you. Right? Because if I fall in love, I can fall out of love.
Mm-hmm.
I just continue to grow in my love because
Yeah.
my love gets stronger
It's
each
deeper.
day and
It's
deeper,
and deeper.
because of her pushing me to be a better leader and a better man.
But I see that as the problem today is we are a generation of self-gratification. We want it right now.
Yeah.
We don't take the time to see it develop.
We're a Burger King generation.
Yeah. But where I'm going with that is, what we've been, 17, 18 years now, we're about the same.
And we're about to say 18 years I've been married.
I don't think we'll ever see it develop because we're always moving forward.
Yeah.
And people with the mentality is, I don't see it right now, I don't need to go forward. You won't see the great things in marriage if you stop too early.
Right. And that's a lot of things in life.
Yes.
And it's true. I never got this until probably here recently. Is I do learn something new about my wife all the time.
Every
agree.
day.
All the time.
Yeah.
And you think you would know somebody after 18, 19 years? No.
No.
And sometimes it doesn't hit you right then either.
Right.
Sometimes you think back, whoa, she did do that.
That's
or,
it, like,
or, wow, did I just see that? No.
Yeah.
But
So-
yeah, it's amazing though.
It is.
just
It's amazing.
You keep growing, but people just don't understand that concept. It's like, I can do better now. I can do better now. Well, I got it right here, but I can do better than that right now, and it's, people need to slow down.
Well, and
figure out some stuff.
you're not the same person you were.
Right.
They're not going to be the same person they were.
Yeah.
You have to love the person for what they are, no matter how they change. It changes. And I just did a quick little search because I know I'd heard it, and the rates of divorce amongst arranged marriages, right? We've heard they're lower, but according to the data they were just saying, it's below 10% for arranged marriages, whereas love or passion marriages, it's 50%. So I'm not saying let's all go arrange marriages now.
Somebody better bring me a cow and a pig for my kid.
But it's just interesting to see that as you're saying, that if you don't go into it knowing that you're going to have to work from the beginning, which I think is what arranged marriages really do start off with. You have to learn to who is this person? I'm going to be with this person. We have to learn how to go through it, as opposed to our passion marriages where there's that chemical reaction, there's that spark, there's that whatever it is. The flesh is what steps in, and a lot of times why people get married. I guess apparently there's only a 50% chance that's going to work out.
Wow. Yeah.
I have a quote
Because
for
they
that.
quit working
Yes.
at it.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a quote for that. I love it. It says, "No man ever stepped in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and it's never the same man."
There you go.
Right.
That is awesome.
Where'd
I'm
that
glad you
come
brought
from?
Where did that come from?
I'm not telling you.
I've heard that one
It's a
before.
secret.
Yeah.
I showed you guys yesterday. I ain't telling you where I get my stuff.
I like it.
But yeah, I will say that my wife and I have never been closer since we found the Lord. I mean, if you listen to the last podcast, we almost got divorced before we found the Lord. I mean, it was going the other direction. We would have been part of that 50%. And as you had even said, Derek, the more I read the Bible, the more I understand what is said in there, the more the Holy Spirit works through me, the more I realize how important it is that it's work.
Yes.
Nothing good comes easy,
No, it does not, and it takes time.
and it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's what producing. I say producing a good leader, but making a good leader, it takes time. We
Right.
can't just be a good leader overnight and be like, I'm an overnight success.
No.
That doesn't work like that. And we still got to keep working at that. We're going back to leadership, and that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. But that's the same thing that goes on with marriage. It's the same thing that goes on what we do is that we have to keep working
You
at
got to
it.
work at it.
We got to.
That's and then that's every aspect of life, right? None of us are the best Christians out there,
No.
right? We all struggle,
Oh, yeah. I struggle
But-
all the time.
but we're all working for it,
Yes.
right? We're all striving and working to become better.
Right.
And that's the one thing I always, like, when I wake up, I ask God for two things: make me better as a person than I was yesterday, and make me a better leader today than I was yesterday. That's the two things that I always start with, because that's what I want to be. I want to be a better person than I was the day before, and I want to be a better leader than I was the day before.
Okay, fine.
Well, I know you're itching over there.
I
Okay,
was
you guys
thinking-
done talking? You
We
guys
could-
done?
we could all
No,
see
I
it
was
right
thinking
I got
about
more,
where
guys.
we're
I got
going
more.
with this.
I
Yeah.
got
He
more.
brought 6 pages of
Oh, I
notes.
know. My goodness.
I only got 2 more points if you guys want to
Yeah.
hear it.
I don't even use 6
My
pages
guess.
of notes when I preach.
Well, maybe you should.
Got him.
In one sense, leaders are custodians. They must care for people, places, and the things that are not theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Boo. Put that in your notes.
Ooh, yeah.
I like it.
That was a good one.
That is a good one, though, because, you have to have care for every single aspect of what you're doing if you're going to be a true leader. And again, not just a boss.
Right.
You need to understand that every single action and word that you say is going to have impact, and that you got to be careful with what you do and what you say.
You imagine if we just showed more kindness? I mean, that would just be unreal. And that's why I think that we talked about that months ago, the difference between being nice and being kind.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Being
a
nice
huge-
doesn't cost anything.
There's a huge
Kind
difference.
cost everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Back to your notes, Randy. I apologize.
Gosh, I was just listening to you guys. I said something. Y'all talk about it.
Well, I think that's
No.
one of the hard parts about being a leader, though, is being able to have the kindness to literally say, "Oh, here's the shirt off my back," as
Right.
people say. Here, you need help with this, instead of just being like, "Why can't you do this?"
Yeah.
To be like, "All right, let me get in here, get my hands dirty, get cut up, get bloody, whatever you got to do."
Right.
Sometimes, though, a good leader does have to kind of come down hard, though.
Yeah, it's true.
On their people.
That's true. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do,
Right.
there's a
Right.
difference between
know.
rebuking someone.
How many
for
times did Jesus
wrong action.
rebuke them?
Yeah.
You know,
Yep, there's a difference between wrong action, and there's a difference between either the lack of knowledge or the lack of ability to do what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
there's definitely something there.
yeah.
It's one of the things
Yeah.
I try to keep all the time with my kid, with Harmony, because I have to understand. Again, she's little, and there's things where if I know she's done it right, then I will rebuke her, or she will get in trouble for doing something if she knows how to do it right. But then also trying to understand those times where it's okay, this is a mistake you made. Let's come at it with compassion, and teach you how not to do this again.
I see you looking over. Like, go ahead, Randy.
Oh my goodness, I'm not doing nothing. I'm waiting on you guys. Yes. No, I was just gonna bring it back to this just individual person, and what I've got here is just what's the Bible's role for a man in leadership. And it's the man's duty is to fear God and keep His commandments.
Mm-hmm.
So
Being obedient.
I was just gonna bring it
And
back
what
to
are
that.
His commandments?
And I want you to tell me.
The greatest 2 commandments. The greatest one is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
To be kind.
To be kind, I told you.
Yeah. So that brings me to the next one. That's why I wanted you to tell me. A man needs to respect himself and the lives of others. So, neighbors.
How do you do that?
By showing kindness.
Showing kindness.
You got to work on that every day.
We have to. I mean, we
Yeah.
really do.
But it goes on down to the respect of as others as well as our freedoms, our character, and our property, our truth, and the progress of our growth. So I mean, it's not just explain it in easy terms. You got plenty to think about on that.
I think with respect of others in leadership, it's respecting them to their face, but it's also respecting them when they're not around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why you
And
gotta put it that
that's-
way? No, just
And that's one of the things that we struggle with a little bit, especially
Yeah.
I feel like our group, the 5 of us, because we poke fun at each other. That's just what we do.
Really?
No, maybe not. Maybe it's just me. Okay, I'll confess, it's just me.
Daniel's mean.
Yeah, he's so mean. I told him to show
And-
kindness. What comes with kindness?
Right.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Right? I know
But-
you don't like me.
Yeah. But we do, and that's one of the things that like I'm having to remind myself every day is, I still got to be nice and kind. Still have to be kind and respectful even when they're not around, which just means like the way that I may talk about them, or does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are people we disagree with. There are people that we don't think they're doing the right thing.
Right.
And that's a real tricky part that I think a lot of Christians have a hard time with is, again, in the Bible, if you got a problem with somebody, you're supposed to go to the person about it.
Correct.
Right.
You're not supposed to talk to anybody else about
Right.
it. And I know we've all failed on that a lot.
Yep.
And that's something we're going to constantly struggle with. I know it is because, well, part of it is it takes a lot of courage to go up to somebody and alone and say, hey, I got a problem with what's going on.
And we're prideful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our pride gets in the way.
Yep.
I don't want to admit that I'm wrong.
Yep.
Because when we all talk, we want to be right.
Right.
Right. I mean, we do. We want to be right. When I talk, I said, yeah, I want to be right.
Yep.
But when we got to show that humbleness to know when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong or, something, I'm going to confront you. And I've been working on that, and that's what I want to do is if I have a problem or if I feel something, I want to go to that person and just talk,
Yeah.
and it's a struggle sometimes
And
to
you
do
gotta-
that because, you almost feel like you failed.
You got to make sure you don't do it out of anger, though.
Right.
Right.
And that's very,
And that's hard.
very hard.
And I think one of the best guys that I've seen recently that something may come up and they feel like it's wrong and they want to go talk to somebody is Jed. Because Jed doesn't jump straight to it. He's going to pray about it and he's going to listen and wait for God to tell him what to say and when to say it.
Not only am I short, I am quiet until it's time to speak.
Oh, wait, Jed, you're still here.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wake up.
I
Jed,
forgot.
wake up. Well, I think that's why I went ahead and kept truth on my list because there's a few that I cut that I personally didn't feel like they was up to par on this. Some of this list looked like it was more worldly. Mm-hmm. So I took most of the ones I thought we should respect on it, and that's why I left truth on there, is because I think as a Christian we ought to find the truth first before we open our mouths.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everybody has hearsay, everybody has non-facts. Why can't we be different and bring the facts to people?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well-
the truth does set you free.
And as a Christian leader, you are responsible. The responsibility is huge because you will be judged harsher for how you lead others.
Absolutely.
If
And
you-
and how you respond.
and how you respond to others. And just like a good, true leader, especially a leader of old, if something doesn't go right among the people you're leading, you don't say, "Oh, that they messed up."
Yeah, that was their fault.
Yeah, you take it on yourself. Sorry, we made a mistake. This is on me. Something went wrong. Something's not happening right. That's on me. Blame me. Don't blame them.
Right.
Because you're the leader, and that's what's missing from, as you had mentioned earlier, from a lot of the worldly leaders.
Right.
As soon as something goes wrong, I mean, we even see it in our political leaders. We see it in other religious leaders. As soon as things go wrong, blame just starts being tossed around.
Oh yeah, you hear that? I got your back.
Yeah.
Do you really? Let's see.
You got the knife in the back. Is
Yeah,
what you
right.
got.
Let's go to battle and then really see if you have my back.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
But
right.
sometimes we're pressured into that instant answer, instant reaction, and we need to step back, and everything needs to be laid out, and then be in the right mind to move forward.
Right. And sometimes that, like what we talked about.
And it's kind of like the time we was at your house and Crystal called, and you had a guy sitting at your gate, and they was out by the horses.
Yep.
Boom, you was out that door, and you was flat, just running straight to the deal.
I run the gunfire.
I mean, he was gone.
That's what we're trained.
That's what we're trained to
We're
do.
trained to do it.
My situation, I'm following him, but I get about halfway out, and I slow down, and I start looking left, right, and all around.
Yeah.
He's going to the
Threads.
thread.
Through the thread.
I'm looking for a secondary thread.
Yeah.
Make sure that he's going to be okay with thread number one.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and you
But
look
that's
at
why
this.
it takes a team.
It does
Yeah,
take a team.
it does.
And it really does because now, so you all been to my house. And so it was that night. It was super dark out. The
Yes.
ladies were over at the horses. And if you come to my house, you're either lost or you're up to no good.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? There's no
You don't
reason.
drive by
You
your
don't
house.
drive by my
It's
house.
not accidental.
No, it's not accidental because most people don't even find my house and be like, "It's that dirt road through the pasture."
Yep.
Yeah, turn right there.
Yeah. If you were in the wrong spot, you would have turned around by then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they call me and say, "Hey, there's a truck at our gate." Okay. They're not lost. They're probably up to no good. And
They shut it off and will not respond.
right, and they're not responding to them. Hey, hey, who is that? Who's at the gate? And
No
they're
one's
like, no
answering.
one's answering them. So I'm like, I was gone.
Done.
You're right. That's how we're trained.
Yeah.
And that's what we do is we run to the threat,
threat.
right? And we always said that as cops, right? We're running in and everyone's running out. And that's what that leader does. We run to the fight.
threat.
We run to the battle.
Yeah.
We run there, and because we are leading, and that's where you can go back to law enforcement, military. You have great leaders that come from those job professions
Yeah.
because they lead their troops to battle.
They got the initiative.
You know what's going to happen at the end sometimes. I'm running to gunfire, yeah, let's go. And a great leader is going to move you to gunfire.
Yeah. But too, when I think of a great leader, is sometimes when you're that leader and you hand off that command, right? Like you talked about earlier. One thing my dad did as a fire chief was if one of the firefighters was on scene first, they kept command and he'd just
Correct.
go in and fight fire.
That's it.
But what would happen was if something happened on that scene, instead of it going back on his guys for command, he took that blame because he let them stay there. And that's a leader is, I'll let you take that post and I'll go fight. But if something comes back on you, I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I have your 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly what Jesus did.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right.
He took it in the end. He took
Yep.
it for all of us.
Exactly.
You know, he took the ultimate sacrifice for it.
But you're right, Jed. I mean, you got to have that team. You got to have
Yeah.
that person that's going to the battle. You know, and that's why, you know, in all these different things that we battle, we have different people in place in our lives, right, that have different abilities and different strengths and different weaknesses because as a team, we're building each other up.
That's right.
You know, you're stronger here, I'm weaker here. And so that's what we're doing. And you're right. There's that one guy or, you know, our team of people that are behind watching for other things that are going on where one person is running towards this way.
That's why in the
The
fire
leader
service you
might not
said,
be the one in the front. The
No.
leader can be stepped back. The
You're
leader
right.
can be
Yeah.
in the front.
yeah,
Tunnel
But-
vision.
Yeah.
And that's why I said a good leader needs to know when to lead and when to follow.
That's
right.
That is
Yep.
that is
Yep.
the thing. And
that's a big takeaway I think from tonight. Is a good leader needs to know when to lead and when to follow.
Yep.
yep.
Yep. And you know, Jesus didn't send them out alone when they went out to
Yeah,
go
they-
preach. He sent them out in groups of 2.
Yep.
Because he knew
Yep.
they would need someone else there with them.
They were they were the biblical firefighters.
Right.
2 in, 2 out.
2 in, 2 out.
Yeah.
And then the way they're always mentioned in the Bible, the way the apostles are always mentioned, they're actually grouped into 3 groups of 4. And the 3 groups of 4 always, there's the same person is always mentioned first in each group of 4. So there was a leader amongst there's the group, the leader, then there's subgroups, there's the leader of the subgroup,
Right.
and then there's probably even below that the
you're-
same type of thing.
You're talking about a chain of command.
Oh, wow.
Exactly right.
How about that?
But that's how a good leader does it, because when you need to step out, when you need to be in there fighting the fire, you know that I've got my backup. He knows how to step in and do my job for me when I'm not there. And if he's busy, there's another guy behind him who knows how to step in.
Always someone in charge.
Right. Honestly, I think that's the group we're building right here. Is that any one of us could dive into the building to go fight the burning fire,
Yeah.
and you know that the people who are left outside are still going to be going, oh, now what do we do? You know, we're going to be
Right.
taking care of business because
Yeah.
we know how to. You know, that's just what we're building ourselves up to be.
What do you think, Randy? You got any more over there?
Anything else?
You sure?
I just got a finished quote when you guys are ready.
Ooh.
All
I
right.
can't wait for that finished quote.
Yield.
Anything else, guys?
I think one of the important things about whether you want to be a leader or not is getting yourself into a group of Christians, because you'll find a leader or you'll become the leader.
Right.
And again, you don't have to be the top leader. You might just be a leader of a section. You might just be a leader of one group.
Sometimes you got 5 leaders in that group,
You could.
Yeah.
but they're leaders in different aspects that group does.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 Are you talking about this group, Daniel? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of am.
You say we're all the same personality?
Almost.
But I think it's true. It shows you, if you get yourself into a group of good Christians, you will see and find good leaders. And I'm not saying that's just a given. There are bad leaders out there too.
but
And you have to be careful about the doctrine that they're following. Nowadays, it's so important to ask questions, to look at what they believe, and to make sure that it lines up with what the Bible says. But if you find that group, like I feel like we found here, you're going to learn. You're going to be growing. Again, iron sharpens iron. We are all learning from each other every single time we are with each other.
We are.
And it's
Absolutely.
And
And we're pushing each other.
yep.
We push each other all the time. I try to push Randy more than others, but
Takes 2 people to push Randy.
Need a bulldozer for that.
I got tired of pushing, so I just ran and hoped y'all catch up.
Y'all just reach over the top of me.
Come on, Jed, get on there.
I don't know. I've got a verse that come to me since we talked about this, and I don't know if it really fits, but it does fit. It's John 5:30. I can of myself do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I do not seek my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me. And that goes back to what I said to start with. We need to look for for His will.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the number one deal for being a leader of any kind.
It's true, because you might want to feel like you need to be the leader, but if there already is a leader there and God's saying, hey, no, step back.
Step
Right.
back.
This is your time to learn.
Yeah.
This is your time to watch. Your
Yep.
time to be on backup. So if something happens or he needs you, you're right there to step in.
Yep.
So, yeah, that gets back to that leader being able to follow.
Right.
That's right.
Just like Ray pushes us on Sunday night.
Read the whole book.
Read the whole book by 2 days, okay? And I'm going to ask you 55 questions.
Answer every question.
Every single one.
And I'm going to call you out, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love
Hey,
you, Ray.
we love
it
you,
worked.
Ray.
It worked with one of you,
Who, Daniel?
Nope.
Randy. He filled out the book. I saw it.
Randy,
No.
Randy taking
Randy
notes.
fills out the book.
Randy
Of course
didn't
it'd be
finish it.
Randy.
You only
He
see
comes
what you
with-
want to see.
He comes with 6 pages of notes to every podcast. So
Hey,
yeah.
He sure
I am
does.
the dumbest one of the crew, so I at least got to catch up to you boys, okay?
I don't know about that.
I was being nice.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
That's what a leader does, is be nice.
Oh.
Oh,
No, it's kind.
oh,
Kind.
oh,
Maybe there's a reason I'm quiet.
I'm out.
But I think that's what we got to do. We got to push each other
We do.
constantly.
We have
Yeah.
to. And you surround yourself with those people that are pushing.
Yeah.
Because if you, I mean, like we said, you know the negative people. They're always negative.
Always.
Always. And it's going to bring you right down.
Every time I hear somebody try to be negative, I'm like, tell me good 3 positive things from your day.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me one negative.
No, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Right.
I don't want to hear it.
Right,
Like,
but-
I'm going to tell you, I don't want to hear it.
But I do that so that way they try to find the good
Right.
in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always good.
Yep.
I mean, hello, you woke up. That's
Right.
good.
Well, yeah, and these boys didn't like me in the morning when we at the missions trip in
Yeah?
Hot Springs. Oh yeah,
What's that?
like good morning, boys. Let's go. Come on, let's go.
Oh.
You're annoying in the morning.
Oh, they're gonna
It wasn't just us,
Hey.
his wife even.
they're gonna hate me Saturday morning at this men's retreat. Then
Just Saturday?
Got him again.
Shots fired.
yeah,
Where was the little drums,
Ah,
man?
they're too hard to hit. Don't worry. We got our own. We
I
got
thought
yours.
you.
Money
I
there.
thought you were the one to push the buttons, and
Yeah.
you're failing.
Yeah, he's too busy talking.
Hey, Daniel.
take it.
We're just joking, buddy. We love you
That's fine. That's fine.
from another
It's okay.
side of the country.
It's all good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure I'll hear about it
This
some
weekend.
other time.
No, you'll hear it
would-
this weekend. Just wait.
I would bring saran wrap, but I don't have that much.
I don't know what for. I've got a lot of ideas, though.
Yeah, I bet. Bet.
I'm
Hey.
glad you said that, Daniel, because you know what? Now I'm thinking, you think you're going to get us.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I can't wait for this weekend.
I'm excited,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, actually. we
And
might
we're
as well
talking about
talk
leadership
that.
this weekend a little bit. So
Yep.
I'm pretty stoked.
Are you sure you're going to change the schedule again?
No, I'm positive.
Well, he's going to be like, well, you
Happening.
can't shoot guns now. You can't have a campfire.
Fire inside.
No, we're still having the guns.
Yeah.
We're getting with the fire department to see if we can do the campfires outside. We'll see.
They'll say no.
Because we're still under that burn
Oh,
ban.
yeah. It's so dry.
The drought
It's
is
super
severe.
dry.
It's
yeah.
dry.
And it's supposed to be super windy this weekend, too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You guys are going to called the Watchman, right?
The Watchman.
yeah, Watchman retreat.
All right. I know. I've heard they do that kind of all over the place, don't they? They're Watchman retreats in different places, or is this separate from that? Or?
It's separate.
Okay.
This is a Christian Watchman.
Okay. I've heard of the other one. I don't know who the other ones are. I just heard of them. So.
The other one is a political
okay.
basis thing.
Is
yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah. So this is a Christian retreat.
God and guns.
Gods and guns. That's why I moved to Arkansas.
America.
God,
Yep.
coffee, guns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, America.
That's all you need to know.
Keep saying it.
America.
Well, and it's something that came to me when you were just talking about, Daniel, you were mentioning making sure that people talk about positive things. Again, just bringing it back to leaders for a second. That's actually something that our pastor at our church in Hawaii, I think, was a really amazing thing he would do in every single service, right after all the singing, before he'd send off the kids to go do their little bit of Sunday school, he would have the entire church, ask the entire church, not what prayers do you have, what praises do you have? And you'd have the whole church full of people just shouting out, standing up and telling them what they were praising God for from the last week. And I think that's we always ask prayer requests. That's going to happen all the time. I think it's important to also focus on the praises. And as a leader, helping others to see that too, because that's a lot of people get down on themselves and a lot of people get down on their lives real easy. And as a good Christian leader, to be able to go to somebody and say, okay, come on, let's start with something positive. What's something that's positive? Because there is always something.
Always.
There is.
All
And we
right,
take it
Ray,
for granted.
what praise do you have then?
Well, my praise from this last week was that, or from this week, would be that my mother-in-law's in town and getting to spend some time with my daughter, and that they didn't get lost yesterday. Speaking of guys being ready to jump in and help and diving head first, because they, she's doesn't have a cell phone, won't get one, doesn't know the area, didn't have, we gave her some maps to get around, but got turned around, didn't have our numbers with. So, in a place you don't know, driving around with she's got a GPS thing, but it's not a cell phone one. And our development's too new, so it's not even on the map. I even updated it, but it's still not on that map. So she can't even punch in our address to find our house on her Garmin. It won't find it. So she was completely lost. And I actually, again, start after 2 hours of them not being there, that panic starts to set in a little bit. Because, of course, at first my wife was very upset at first because they were supposed to be home. My daughter had a softball game and they weren't there in time for it. And, I started off with the whole attitude of, it'll be fine. They'll be here any minute now. And then when any minute keeps going by and nobody's showing up, I actually, got my phone out. I was like, okay, I got to figure something out and start scrolling. Of course, Derek's name is like the first one that pops up in my list. I'm like, boom, call Derek. He was a police officer. He'll know what we can maybe do. Like, how do you handle this situation? And, but it also shows the love we have for each other, because without even asking, without even you even saying anything, 5 minutes later, you guys were in a car driving to go check on a spot where you had seen an accident to see if it, maybe that was what was going on. You didn't ask, you didn't think about it.
Right.
You just were like, we got to go. We're going to go. And, and you even offered, you said, well, as soon as we're done here at the church, if you haven't come home yet, we'll figure something out. We'll, spread out. We'll figure out where they might be and try to figure out where they went. Yeah. And you will not find that outside of church in very few places where you'll have people who will go to battle with you like that. Because you say it probably sounds easy, but when you actually think about trying to go find someone who's lost in an area, that's
difficult.
It's needle in a haystack is what that is. But we would have done it. Yep. I know we would have done it.
Yep.
We all were like, all right, you drive this road, I'll drive to this small area, you drive over to that place, and we would have done it, even though it would be an impossible task. Where I guarantee you go to your neighbors in your neighborhood, if they're not Christians, and say, hey, my child's missing. They're like, oh, well, I'll keep an eye out. Yeah. And that's probably all they do.
Sit back down and watch the TV.
Exactly. I'll keep an eye out from inside my house on my couch.
Do you all know my neighbors? That's not an option. No, they're good neighbors.
And I'm just saying that's everywhere, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
Jed, what praise you got this week?
My praise this week is just getting back home from being gone this weekend and actually just spending some time with my dad this week. We've been working together. Just good visitation, and that's don't happen a lot. Sometimes we're all in different directions, and we spent most of the week together this week, so it's been real nice.
Yeah, very nice. Derek?
My praise right now is my wife.
Yeah.
Because, I think I told earlier, she had that heart issue, and she's been seeing the specialist, and then she had another test this morning, and they still can't find anything wrong, but she still hasn't had another episode. So we're hoping that it just led back to a prescription that she took one time, and hopefully that was it. Because as of right now, she hasn't had any major issues, or the doctors can't find anything, but there's still testing going on. So right now, that's a praise.
Yeah, no news is good news almost
Right.
in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have to say my praise is within 3 parts here. One,
Oh, we get more than one?
yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm doing it. I don't care.
Wow. Well, come back to
come
me.
back around.
It all goes hand in hand with what y'all saying. You know, we had a good weekend. Me and my wife got to go spend some time together. We got to hang out with Derek and Crystal and had dinner.
Well, that was a great dinner.
It was, and that's good praise right there. Getting out and just enjoying fellowship with them. So that's 2, hanging out with my wife and with them. And the third is, I think anytime I talk to you guys, I'm like, man, I'm just ready to see my friends, and I really enjoy this. This is, I think, something I was wanting for a very long time. You got your friends within the sheriff's office and stuff you hang out with, but it just, to me, this doesn't feel like that. This feels better. Like this is where we're supposed to be, you know. So I got to praise for all this and all the friends fellowship.
Boom, 3. Awesome. Well, you know, what is your praise, Daniel?
I got a couple.
Oh, my goodness. I thought it was just one.
I know. So last Saturday, I did my finished my 3rd half marathon.
Was there a bear running after you?
No,
You're just running for fun.
I just run for fun. So
Overachiever.
Yeah.
I know, and so it's been a year since I ran my first half, or well, a year and a half now since I've ran my first half. So I've ran 3 halves and 1 full within the last year and a half.
That's it?
What's taking so long?
I know, he's slacker.
Well, I mean, I've done some 5Ks and 10Ks in there. You know,
Oh.
little 3 mile, 6 mile runs in there, but
Just those little ones.
just those little ones.
Yeah,
so
just little.
I can't even make it a mile on a treadmill right now.
so
Better
yeah,
make it to my truck.
I got to run. I ran my 3rd one, and that was a fun one. But for you guys know, but some of our listeners don't. My wife and I aren't blessed to have kids, right? And so a personal prayer of mine has been for God to allow us to have kids in some way. And we finally started talking about adoption last night.
Nice.
And so we're looking at going that route.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of one of those big prayers that I've been praying for about a year and a half now.
That's awesome.
That's
That's awesome.
it's getting answered slowly but surely, but
It's a pretty big step, though, talking about it.
it is.
That's,
It is.
That's within itself there. That's
because
awesome.
you know when you get told that there's a 99% chance you'll never have kids of your own, to us like that's hard,
Right.
Because you want to be a dad, but to the woman, that's way harder for them than it is for us. And so 2 years later to finally come to the realization and acceptance and start talking about it. So
We had a small conversation with a fella the other day that he was told by a doctor that he may not make it through COVID. And what was
Right.
his answer, Derek?
My God's stronger
my
than
God,
that.
stronger. That's what when
And
that
that's
doctor,
a big relief to sit there and say that
When-
and believe in it.
yeah,
Yes.
when that doctor told us, I looked at that doctor. I said, "So based off your statistics, there's a 1% chance."
Yeah.
I said, "But let me give you a better statistic. According to God, there's a 100% chance if He wants it."
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And we walked out.
That's true. That's true. But it's one.
But-
The Bible adoption is in the Bible. It's in
Yeah.
law in
Yeah.
the Bible. If your brother passed away, you adopted his kids. There was no
Right.
question.
Right.
It wasn't a well maybe we could. No, you just did it. You know. But we, you know, my wife and I, we have one child, but we tried for more, and we don't know due to her illness or what it might be, but we just weren't able to have any more either. And you know, we talked about adoption a little bit, but again, with her illness, we just weren't sure if it's something we can do. You know, so I'm glad to hear that you guys are talking about that though,
Yeah.
because I know how. I mean, it's not even just saying the depression that's involved with it, but the everything that's involved with that from the side of again the woman, because that's I don't want to say that's their job, but I mean it's one of them. It's their reason for creating life, that they're the ones who are responsible for it.
And it's a struggle too, because you go through like Mother's Days and Father's Days, and you know you get to see and I love seeing people excited spending time with their kids. That's why I do ministry. But and then you see people that probably shouldn't have kids that get to have kids. Or who didn't want kids and they have kids and they just pass their kids off to grandparents all week. And that's a little bit of a struggle from time to time, but
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say of my second praise. Well, I was going to actually say my kids.
yeah,
It's just because right now they're
That's
the
awesome.
stage of their life
I
right
love
now.
it.
It's just
Yeah.
awesome. And they're fun.
they're
And Autumn's gonna be going to college next year. Tomorrow we're doing a tour at the university, and then Wyatt's at that stage right now. It's just that's my buddy, man.
yeah.
It's just my bud, and we just hang out. We just do things like today. We went out and bought him a shotgun, and it's just so cool. It's a praise.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. Randy, you want to read us that quote?
All
And
right,
then we'll
let's,
pray.
let's do it. The quote is, "Stand firm in your faith. Be men of courage and be strong. Create an atmosphere. God has called you and placed you where you are for his purpose."
Yep.
Very
It's always
nice.
good to remember that. You
Yep.
know.
Love it. Love it. Let's pray and then we'll be done. Father, we thank you so much for today, God. Just thank you for the time that we can gather together and just converse with what you've laid on our hearts. Father, we just ask that you help us to be better men. Help us to be better leaders, God, that we are better today than we were yesterday, God, and help us to know when to lead and know when to follow, Father. We just we love you. We thank you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you for listening to Spiritual Debriefing, a podcast supported by First Baptist Church Hiwassee. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so you can be notified when we post new episodes, as well as check out our past episodes. We'll be posting new podcasts every other Thursday. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have questions you'd like us to answer, comments, or feedback on the podcast, please contact us through our social media or email us at dmeadows@fbchiwassee.com. Thank you, and we hope God blesses your day.